What's going on, people? Welcome to United View and welcome to the morning show. Short, sharp, bit different this morning. It's the weekend, all right? Me and Owen are amazing, especially Owen and Josh, but even we need rest, okay? But but everyone's like, rest? What's rest? What is that? What's that? But there is no rest for the wicked because we do have to bring you some news that has come out there from Laurie Whitwell regarding the takeover, regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe, regarding a potential sale of Nice, should he be successful in acquiring Manchester United, and a little bit on Sheikh Jassim and the mystique around him. The lack of knowledge around him is said to be a factor in the Glazes' reluctance to enter into an agreement with him. So we're going to talk about those two. Hit a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Doing things a little bit different this morning. Short, sharp, little manageable chunks like GCSE bite size for those of you who live in England. Remember GCSE bite size?
I do remember that, yeah.
Exactly. A little bit like that. And if you live outside of England, just Google GCSE bite size and you'll know what I mean. But Owen, what have we got at the top of the show regarding Sir Jim and the sale of Nice?
Yeah, so Laurie Whitwell's written quite an interesting article given the events of yesterday, really. And to be fair, quite a lot of it is sort of speculation. It's more of an opinion piece as opposed to sort of this is genuine news. This is more sort of, as mentioned, opinion and sort of speculation. But he is writing in The Athletic that it has been proposed in the industry that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has decided to sell Nice in the event of buying Manchester United. That's the kind of call being talked about as a sign of confidence. Another is that Sir Dave Brailsford, who is basically Jim Ratcliffe's right-hand man in everything sport. He's already at Nice as well. I think it's one of their sporting directors, which is a point of contention, must be said, with a lot of Nice fans because he doesn't really have a footballing background. He was involved in was it Team Sky as well. But they're saying that Dave Brailsford is already making inquiries on sporting decisions. Now, what those sporting decisions are, we don't know. But those within the industry are viewing that as a sign of confidence that if he's talking about selling Nice, then would that not suggest that he's very confident he's going to win this and he's going to be successful in this takeover race? However, Flex, when I saw that this morning and said, they're saying he could sell Nice, I went, wait a minute. We are just in this. I know Nice aren't Manchester United,
no,
but you're telling me that he's going to buy Man United and then immediately buy, I'm going to sell Nice. That's because that'll happen overnight, won't it?
Yeah.
You have to, and I know that there's plenty of rich people, wealthy people wanting to get into purchasing football clubs, but wouldn't someone from the Man United side of things go, okay, and how do you intend to do that? And have you got a buyer lined up already? Is that what you're going to do?
Well, he wouldn't have to do it before he wouldn't have to do it. He can own two at the same time. Yeah. So it's not like you can't acquire Manchester United until you sell Nice.
No.
And again, it goes back to what the Glazers care about. The Glazers will go, that's your problem, mate. Once you've given us our money and we're minority shareholders in, because that's what his deal is. I don't think the Glazers would give a shit about that. Or could they? Because if it's not done, if Nice reached the Champions League like Man United did, which they didn't this year, did they? So
they didn't reach Champions League. I don't think they're even in Europe. They're not in Europe whatsoever.
But if they did while the Glazers were there, that maybe because they're greedy, maybe that they would start caring because it would affect their money if they couldn't compete in the Champions League because of that Nice thing. But it's very far down the line. But maybe it is something they would look at to say,
is it though? Because you think
if
about
it next year.
If you're a Nice fan, you'd be like, so if you buy United, are we just never going to do good then?
No, but I mean the Glazers. Not the Nice fans. I'm talking about the Glazers though. What I'm saying is how much would they care now, and how much of a deal breaker would it be for them now? And actually, firstly, I was like, well, they're not going to care. They're going to get their money for the minority stake. And as it stands, Man United in the Champions League and Nice are not. But if they go to being minority shareholders and give up the Class B shares, etc., etc., does it affect their money down the line if next season we both get in the Champions League? So actually, it is something they need to think about now. That's what I meant.
Yeah, obviously, clearly it could become an issue. And not even necessarily the Champions League. If they get into the Europa League and we are still in the Champions League the following season, there's still a chance we can end up being in the Europa League after the group stage.
So we couldn't drop down afterwards.
There's always going to be a conflict there. And as I mentioned, if I was a Nice fan, I would say, well, are we in a situation where because my owner of this club is the majority shareholder in Manchester United, does that prevent us from doing well? Like, you know what I mean? If we are successful and qualify for the Champions League, does that mean we're getting sold? And I guess that goes back to, just the ownership style in the first place. And I mean, I think this season Nice finished 10th or something like that in Liga. Obviously, again, Nice are not Manchester United, but I don't know. I thought that when I read that, sort of selling a football club, as we are talking about here, can be a quite lengthy and drawn out process. And just because you're selling doesn't necessarily mean there's always going to be a buyer. And maybe he thinks, and this might be the mindset too, is that if this Man United majority shareholder takeover, whatever thing, gets done in the next few weeks, then he might even say to himself, or the Glazers might put upon him, look, we know that Nice aren't in any European competition this season, so you've essentially got a year. You've got a year to actually get rid of Nice, basically, which theoretically you could get rid of them in a year. But if you've got that going on in the background, how focused are you on Manchester United as well? And what's going on with them? There's a lot of plates there, isn't there? It feels like there's a lot of spinning plates. Plus, when it comes to Ineos' takeover, as I mentioned previously, there's all this talk about the actual structure of it. How much percentage is he going to acquire? It's no less than 51, but is it going to be? Is it the full 69? I don't. There's a lot of complicated factors involved in that. And also the thing that does concern me, as I've said several times, is the Sir Dave Brailsford influence, because no disrespect, and I don't know a ton about him, but he is a guy with no real footballing background. And
cyclist, man, isn't he?
And we've done that. What this is Bill Murray Setting's Groundhog Day. We have done that at Manchester United, of people in senior executive positions on footballing matters that know nothing about football and have no experience in football. And it's one thing to do that at Nice, and the Nice fans were annoyed with that, going, who is this guy? He doesn't know anything about football. And then you do that at United.
Do you think? I know the reports are kind of saying that would be the case, but is it clear that he just brings his right hand man in Brailsford, and that he doesn't change it and get the best in class? It's you've been with me the whole way. This is we are Ineos. This is what it is. You're coming Man United.
This is how I operate.
I ain't going to snake you and get rid of you now.
Exactly. This is my structure. I mean, maybe he might get in some other people, because he might say, well, no, Dave, this is Man United. You can't do it like you've done it at Nice. But still, the fact that he would have some influence as his right hand man, that's alarming. That's worrying. I don't know. What say you?
That stinks. Obviously, that just smells of Ed Woodward coming in and being unqualified, and it just seems like repeating the process again. It doesn't fill you with any optimism, does it? And we'll get to Sheikh Jassim in a little bit, but people who support the Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid, I just struggle to see where you're finding these massive positives from. That's your opinion, fair enough, and I'll try to look on the other side and say, okay, so what would that mean versus what this would mean? And I just, down to the money being put down to the money being pledged for the restructure of the football club, down to the debt being cleared. Okay, you could say Sheikh Jassim's never owned a football club of this size before, but Sir Jim has, but it's nothing to put on your CV and say, wow, what an amazing job he's done at Nice, so he knows what he's doing. It isn't that vibe. The Glazers still remain. He has to focus on getting them out in a couple of years. I just can't see, apart from there wouldn't be controversy because it wouldn't be a Middle Eastern owner where this side of the world would scrutinize it more, and it would be easier for someone like Sir Jim Ratcliffe to just walk in and own it because he's British and we know about him. I can't see. Yeah, I can't see why it's better for Man United. I can't see how any deal that keeps the Glazers in and phases them out after a certain amount of time is better for Man United. And some people will say, listen, it's better Sir Jim Ratcliffe in this capacity with the Glazers loosening their grip. Maybe we might go, some people are saying, maybe we'll go through this whole process because they're just loosening their grip to eventually leave. And that is better than them staying as they are as 70-odd% owners anyway. Okay, yes, but under the circumstances of which it's being done in, it's almost just as bad. It's almost worse.
And it's also, for me, it's the pledged commitment to what is going to happen after this takeover is successful that
or
really
lack of.
alarms me. Exactly, nothing so far. And as we have said, and I think people have almost misinterpreted this or have maybe a bit of selective hearing when we talk about, can he really afford to be doing this? I don't think there's any doubt that Sir Jim Ratcliffe can put together a package and a deal to be successful in taking over United because he's doing it, and he might be successful in doing it. The reason people say, can he afford to do this, is because what needs to happen afterwards, which is, okay, you're putting together, and again, the reported bid prices and values is all over the place, but they're saying like 5 billion, pounds over time. It might get to 6 billion with all this kind of stuff. But then after that, we're talking billion for the stadium, billion for the training ground, academy, women's team, local infrastructure, just to get back up to, running pace with what Manchester City are doing across the city. And that's a lot. And Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, whilst they're very, 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 very wealthy, that's a huge outlay even for them. And they're putting together loans to facilitate this takeover in the first place. And I don't know. I don't want, as a United fan, and maybe this is greedy and being self-centered, but I don't want to see my club get taken over. And then my next worry is, what's going to happen next then? Because I don't know. Is the stadium going to get done? I don't want it to be like a year's time going.
That's what it would be
about that stadium. Do we know anything yet? Or about that training?
Do you have any belief, and you guys at home, that will live on forever, won't it? That Sir Jim Ratcliffe will come in after this long whole process, so he's absolutely relieved, and then he reveals the actual plans. Oh, I couldn't say it at the time. It was I'm so glad I've got the club. I know all you guys want to know about the stadium and all these things. So here's the plan. I want to do this and this. And do you think it will be imminent? Do you think he'll have a spare £1 billion just there, ready to go into improving the football club? Because I don't. I don't think you can be someone trying to bid for this club and have no mention in your manifesto. No, it's your one chance before NDAs kick in and you got to keep quiet and all that. It's your one chance to publicly address the fans, the potential fans that you're going to buy. That sounds bad, buying the fans, but of the potential club you're going to buy. It's your one chance. And I know you can say it's lip service, and but if you support Sir Jim, you can say, oh, Sheikh Jassim's just saying that to get us all on board. But that's not lies. All of the stuff that's been part of his bid has been reported that, this is the truth. This is why the Glazers want more, because they don't care about what he's pledged into the club after they've gone. They want him to pledge a bit more so that they get it. And so Jim Ratcliffe to have no mention of clearing any debt, to have no mention of plans to improve the football club, but your biggest ploy was put the Manchester back into United or Manchester United. It just felt wrong. And then it comes out later that your plan is to keep the Glazers in. It just felt so wrong. And I think he lost a lot of people because actually at the beginning of it, he might have got a lot of people still saying, you know what? Yes, we need to be more Man United. We need to be more of our British roots. That's exactly what we need. And then those people went, right, you've lost me now. As soon as you wanted to.
Or when it was, and there was no pledge to remove any of the existing debt, that's going to stay there. I mean, and if he were to be successful, I think, and right out the gate, he'd have to do some kind of, like you said, manifesto, some kind of explanation, as if to say, like, what I'm going to do. Yeah. And maybe he might not actually come out as far as to say, oh, I'm getting these Glazers out. It's going to take a bit of time because technically they're still business partners with him at that point. So he's not going to do that. But if he said, we've got these plans for the stadium and the training ground, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. We haven't heard that yet. And we certainly would be waiting with bated breath, as they say, wouldn't we?
Yes. Interesting to see there. So potentially Sir Jim Ratcliffe, according to Laurie Whitwell, saying that it has been proposed in the industry that Ratcliffe has decided to sell Nice in the event of buying Manchester United. That is the kind of call being talked about as a sign of confidence.
And they'd probably be celebrating that, Nice fans.
Yeah, Great. They would. Yeah, exactly. Get rid, have him, Man United, have him.
Yeah.
So watch your space on that. Is it a direct correlation between him buying Manchester United and him having to do that? Is it a way to show the Glazers that he's serious and, he's focused on going to be on Man United? Etc. etc. Smash the like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And lastly, the mystique surrounding Sheikh Jassim. I mean, we've said this before, haven't we? About because there's not been much access to him, it kind of puts him at a little bit of a loss because a lot of the media decide that Sir Jim's the guy because we don't know much about this guy. We don't get any leaks. We don't get any info. So he's not the guy, it feels.
Yeah, so continuing to talk about this, Laurie Whitwell in his article, which again must be stressed is more of an analysis of events, I should say. Sheikh Jassim has had no direct dialogue so far and has created skepticism. The division is such that he and his team are serious about walking away, which of course they did not. But there is also a fifth bid, which is said to be significant. It continues by saying the mystique around Sheikh Jassim is said to be a factor in the Glazers' reluctance to enter an agreement, in part because of the extra time the Premier League might need to investigate the proof of funds. Now, when I saw that also this morning, Flex, I did another eye roll. And not just because it was early. I gave an eye roll because I went, you're telling me the Glazers going, oh, we think the Premier League might get out there sort of a bit frustrated. The Glazers could give two shits about anything like that. Come on, you know. And in terms of the Premier League investigation into it, as I mentioned yesterday, when we were talking about this in the evening too, is that for me, with all of this, as I said before, Pandora's box was opened a long time ago in the Premier League, certainly when it comes to this. When it comes to Manchester City, or frankly, when it comes to Newcastle, because that's a much more even recent example, because that was, what, 2 years ago, a year ago, whenever it was, at this point, over a year ago. The Saudi PIF are majority owners of Newcastle. The Saudi PIF is a sovereign wealth fund. Yes, it's controlled by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And yes, they signed paper to say that there was going to be no influence, but there is. Everyone knows there is in that instance. And in my opinion, and it's my opinion, I don't know if this would be exactly how it worked. I would assume it'd probably be a very similar instance in this. They'd say, who is this guy? Can you show me where the money's coming from? They would show where the money's coming from. They go, can you sign something to the effect of you can say that it's not a totally sort of state-funded bid? And they go, yep. And they go, well, there you go. Because there's precedent has already been set with that. And if the Premier League vetoed that based on their assumptions that this was a Qatari state-backed bid, I think they'd have a lot of trouble because, as I mentioned, from a legality point of view, the precedent has been set. And then you get into, okay, so what's the difference between us and Newcastle? What's the difference between us and Manchester City? If you're saying the difference is just the fact that it's happening now, that doesn't seem particularly fair, does it?
No, it doesn't. And but then there's obviously the new stringent outlines and the laws of what they've changed in light of that now kicks into play, and we'll see how strong that is. We'll see how much that's scrutinized.
And also, you go into that and you go, okay, so you changed that, but you've still got people in the league at the moment that would actively fail that by your new standards. So either
why are they still there?
So either you get rid of them or you let us in, because as I said, precedent has been set. That seems very odd to me.
Well, I've got a little bit of Laurie Whitwell's article here. I haven't got to my login thing, so I can't actually. It keeps, when you have to subscribe and see a bit, and then it goes off. So I'm just refreshing, trying to cheat the system. But Laurie Whitwell said a few hours ago that the fact that Nasser Al Khelaifi has held direct talks with the Glazers over Man United proposed sale may, through one set of eyes, seem entirely natural, given his importance to Qatar's place in football, in the football world, like what we're talking about. Why wouldn't the chairman of the European Club Association be available to mediate a process that has dragged on for 7 months, whereas compatriot Sheikh Jassim is attempting to seize control? But he goes through a more cynical set of eyes. It loses a bit of credibility is not quote, but he did say it basically loses a little bit of credibility. And he says Al Nassr's role in Man United, and this is a few minutes ago, talks creates a juncture at which fans can more surely ask themselves questions about what Qatari ownership would mean to them. The wall between state takeover and private investor has lost a few bricks. So he's basically saying that because Al Khelaifi has got involved, yes, through one set of eyes, it's what we're saying yesterday. Well, that makes sense. He's across all of sport in Qatar. He's front and center of it. Of course, he's going to speak to Sheikh Jassim, but it loses a bit of the credibility in terms of separating this private investor situation and state takeover. because that was the thing being labelled at this kind of deal before. It was the same thing being labelled at the Saudis, which once Newcastle have got it, all the media and everyone is just celebrating how good Newcastle are now. It's great for the city. Oh, it's amazing. Oh, all the Geordies got their shirts off. It's amazing. They're in the Champions League now. They're jumping up and down. There aren't constant reports keep saying, but it's state owned, but it's state owned, but it's like, so that all of this kind of stuff, whether you think it's right or wrong, once it's done and dusted, goes away. That's just what happens in the world of football. You know, that's very effective. And because Man United are bigger than Newcastle United in every way, shape, or form, it's now that Man United shouldn't be owned by that. Man United shouldn't be owned by that. But I don't know. I think it's a very thin line between how that was reported and how it went away. And now Newcastle are amazing. And
this is what I was just about to say.
Beautiful story. And now it's Man United. It's no.
This is what I was just about to say. This is my biggest issue with this as well. Is frankly, you call it what it is. It's the hypocrisy involved in here. We're talking today. It's the Champions League final, and if City win, they win the treble, and they're being lauded as one of the greatest teams in modern English history or footballing history. Not even English, just footballing history. With a great manager and a great side. Do they want to talk about how and why that team was assembled and the success that City's having and the charges that linger over them? Not that much. They don't. And it does, and maybe as a United fan, you can feel somewhat, oh, it's only because you feel it more. They're just running in on us. But again, looking at the article, Laurie Whitwell says United do not need the supercharged start City required. The club generates enough of its own money anyway, but there are still profit and sustainability rules in place. Even so, Premier League rivals are worried about the prospect of trying to compete with one of the world's richest clubs getting even richer.
Yeah,
and
so it's the hate that's United, because that bit is true.
Yeah,
we do make more money than these teams.
Yeah,
like we do.
But at the same time, they go, you don't need the supercharge. Okay, that's fair. But the supercharge that City have clearly is he's putting them miles ahead of everyone else. And two, it's really that end bit there, isn't it? Even so, Premier League rivals are worried about the prospect of trying to compete with one of the world's richest clubs getting even richer. So then you break it all down and go, is that what it's really about then? Is that the real concern then? That you're worried about us getting more money?
Of course it is. Newcastle are the richest club in the world, though, we're being told. Obviously, they can't spend that money yet, because that just goes to show you can't just turn up with money and say, right, we're going to spend a bloody billion a year on transfers. But, you know, that is the problem. It's someone like, even City, when they first got the money, couldn't do it. Because they don't make that much money. Probably even still now. But Man United could legitimately
do it.
Go and do a madness. Yeah.
Man United, with no investment, zero, with money being taken out the club by their owners, have for the past decade spent 250 million pounds a year. And they can do that. Why? From an FFP point of view, because they generate so much money. Their revenue.
Man United have been shit for 10 years, 11
exactly.
years. So what business have we got spending that kind of money?
And they can still do it because, again, their revenue is so high. So from a Premier League Premier League teams or competitors' point of view, they go, imagine someone actually put money in. Like they go, financially, we wouldn't be able to compete with that. But then that's when you get into, you go, well, then, so are you really, is this about morality or anything like that? Or is this actually just about, oh, they'll have lots of money, we don't?
Well, I remember at the beginning of this process, before I even knew about Qatar or Sheikh Jassim or Jim Ratcliffe, all that stuff. When the Glazers first announced that it was going to be a potential sale or strategic alternatives, whatever it was, I remember my first thought was that, though, before all this happened, my first thought was, we actually make a lot of money and generate a lot of money. Yeah. Man United just needs somebody with money, of course, but who can just come in and focus on the infrastructural side of it and improving the things that need improving and top up the kitty a little bit. Because actually,
wipe out the debt that we have.
Exactly. So come in, $1 billion on the debt, $1 billion on a new stadium, and $1 billion-ish on the training ground and stuff like that. Then probably, if you're being honest, another $1 billion on like women's teams, youth teams, infrastructure. You know, about 4 or 5 billion is still needed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be like the most richest person that's ever existed, so that every year we can just have unlimited money to spend on transfers. Because I do see, transfers aren't the priority. There needs to be consistent, money available, which hasn't been, because the Glazers keep taking and leeching. So that methodology needs to stop. They need to care about the club a bit more. But in terms of us making money and spending money, biggest club in the world, along with Real Madrid and Barcelona. So that that wasn't the problem. It really wasn't. So I do get that bit. But then when it became between the two buyers and who's putting down what, it's a very different argument because that's all we've got to play with. There isn't somebody, if there was somebody else there that was just, you know, yeah, I'm going to come in, I'm going to clear the debt. I'm going to put this much into XYZ and here's 3 million for the Glazes. I could look at that and say, that's good. That's fine. No problem. It doesn't have to be Sheikh Jassim. It just has to be Sheikh Jassim now, in my opinion, with versus the other bid, because that we've only got two. If there was a third and fourth bidder that were offering to clear the debt and build a new stadium, and I'd be like, them other two bids look all right though. You know what? I don't mind as long as it's any of them, but not that. Do you know what I mean? But we don't have those options. So as a Man United fan, what are we supposed to do? Go with the one that keeps the Glazers here, with the guy who's not going to clear the debt and not going to build a new stadium and not going to build a new training ground and have to work to pay off the Glazers. So we'll just go with that. No. Versus the guy's going to wipe out all of it and make it all go away. But the only resistance is from British media because it's like,
we don't know.
That shouldn't really go. Exactly. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. Anyway, so that's the latest. We'll see what happens throughout the day, throughout the weekend. And we'll give you some updates. Got a good video dropping for you later on this evening. Some little bite-sized full view extra bits. Talking about player of the season as well. Wanted to do that before everyone really clocks out from last season. So we've got everyone together. Done some end of season awards and some good little small manageable chunks of videos as well. So yeah, check that out later on this evening. May or may not see you later on during the day. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But please smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And let us know in the comments if you like us mixing it up a little bit as well with these smaller, shorter videos as well to keep you guys with your fix of UV. That made you sound like addicts there. Maybe that was a bit strong. But sorry, guys. But maybe you are addicted to United View. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Well, you know, that's great. But to give you your dose of it, that sounds like medicine. You get what I mean. Anyway, guys, we'll see you again very soon. Take care. Peace.